sent
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome in to the Triple Option. Paul Catalina and Garrett Ross today. And look, you can see more of Garrett's face from this angle.
It's here.
Yeah, there we are. Usually you see Garrett kind of like the side profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to get the full-fledged experience for everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm trying my best.
So he's rolling out the Braves hat today.
Yeah.
Do you have a rotation? How do you determine this?
It really goes on which shorts are clean that day and which shirt is going to match with it. And or even if I have a hat like that I haven't worn in a while and I know, like, you know what, today seems appropriate for this hat, then I'll try to match my outfit around it. But it's just kind of like whatever shorts are clean that day, and I go with the color from there and go bottom up with how I set my hat picks.
All right. So I'd like to give an update on I'm a little blurry here on the
it keeps going in and out of focus.
Okay. I'm in a 1970s movie right now. But I want to give an update on air conditioning, the air conditioning tragedy at my house, the window unit AC. So yesterday, I went through trying to find someone who could come and repair the thing. Mm-hmm. And so I did, and then I went through the whole rigmarole, and then when I looked at the email they sent, which I know she said this on the phone because I had to give my credit card information and all this stuff, but it was going to be $120 just for them to diagnose the problem. Well, a window unit air conditioner, costs
That's
like a good one, like $150 and $300, and the one I had cost about $325. I bought it last year, so I was like, I could just take the old one out, put a new one in, and take the old one back and return it because it's less than a year old and it's still under warranty.
Right.
And then get my money back, and then I'm all square. And seeing as it I have it set up to where I've got to I couldn't do it where take the old one out, wait and do that because I need to get it back in. I decided to do that plan. So talked it over with Amanda. She was like, absolutely. She's in Nashville. And this was very much a directive to please get done before she got back. I'll just tell you, of the honeydews of my life, this has been like DEFCON 2 of a thing, which as you know is very high.
Yes.
So before I left, I just pulled up the link for Lowe's here in Waco. Mm-hmm. And I didn't look to see if they actually had it. But while I was on the way to work, Amanda sent me a text and said, hey, they don't have it in Waco. They have it in Temple. And I was like, okay, well, that's 35 minutes away. Yeah. That's not bad. I mean, I've gone to Temple and back twice in one day once because we had a remote there and we forgot something. And I had to it was me and Ward, and I was like, okay, well, you set up everything else, and I'll haul ass back and get the thing, and then by the time we're on the air, we'll be fine. So that's not bad. But then at about 4:45 yesterday, I got an email from Tempelo saying like, oh no, that was a lie. But we do have one in Round Rock, which is still about 45 minutes even further from Temple. So I had to go down to Round Rock and back. I got the air conditioner. My friend Michael Hansa came and helped me put it in today. It didn't take long because it's the same one. But my nightmare is over. It is over and solved. And
you are a better man than me, because I would have gone and grabbed the closest damn one at Waco and just threw it in there.
Yeah. I had to have a guy. You remember last year when we got it, I had to have someone come and build out custom fit it in. So I was like, no,
that makes sense.
I'm not risking another one that could be slightly smaller or slightly bigger, and then I've got to go through all this again.
Yep.
We're going to get the same one, and if this one cuts out, then we're going to, burn the house down. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. It's just so nuts. But I'm.
Well, did you sleep better at least?
Well, I mean, I just got it done. The reason I got in, 20 minutes ago was because.
So we're going to find out tonight. Okay.
Because it was today. I do have an injury on my finger. You probably can't see it from here. I scraped my finger and I bled like a son of a bitch for about 10 minutes. And then after my friend was gone, I'd already wrapped it and cleaned it. I'm walking around the house and seeing like places I didn't quite realize I had stepped, when you're bleeding, you're bleeding and you're like, yeah, that was my morning. So we're here now, ready to talk about sports. I'm very excited about our afternoon show today. We've got 3 really cool guests right in a row. And then nothing else after, before and after that. But we do have a lot to talk about. I want to start, and I don't want people to think that this is a Florida State-centric show today. Okay. But there are 2 topics that have very much to do with Florida State and realignment and, what's going on. And so we'll start with the one which I think is the funnier one, and the one that maybe is a little bit more concerning as you get into the future of college athletics and private equity. And then at the end of the show, we'll talk about Bill Connolly's S&P, which is a huge number. I've reached out to Bill. Hopefully maybe we can get him on the show by Friday, right? Or early next week. But of course, we're going into Memorial Day weekend. Is it Memorial Day weekend already?
Yeah, I just realized. Smokey had said something earlier. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so we won't be here on Monday because, it's a holiday. And so we're not going to be here. But I do want to get him on maybe either end of this week or early next week to talk about it, because he's got a very interesting mathematical formula where he takes in a ton of different factors, and the lazy way to do it is just be like, well, do you have the most returning starters? Yeah, but we talked about it the other day. If those returning starters suck.
Then it's a case by case scenario.
Yeah,
you don't know.
There's nothing, so you have to put more into it. But first off, a tweet from Brett McMurphy last night. Which is Florida State AD Michael Alford, who is he's not shy.
No, he's not.
We'll just tell you he's not shy. He insinuated that ESPN knew before the rankings release that FSU didn't make the playoff. When I get to FSU's selection event, I look up and see who is covering us. It's Harry Lyles Jr. I see Marty Smith is in Tuscaloosa. That hit me. We're not in. I did not get really worried until I saw that. First of all, Harry Lyles Jr. doesn't deserve this smoke.
No, that's kind of throwing some shots at.
Also, 2 things can be true here. I do believe ESPN had a very strong idea what was going to happen. Because of the influence of the networks and the influence of certain things, it was very clear that the directive was given, we're not leaving the SEC out.
Right, yeah, no.
That was the directive that was given.
Bama, at that point.
It was so, that was the directive that was given. And then they had their convenient little excuse of even though Florida State won the games without Jordan Travis, it's just different. Mm-hmm. You don't know until you play. And to do that was, again, you're going to send me down a road of rage, and I'm going to smash out all the windows in this place, but that's where it went. But here's where he's wrong. Marty Smith was going to be in Tuscaloosa no matter what. He would have been in Georgia had Georgia been the one. Marty Smith was in Tuscaloosa because Marty Smith hosts a show on the SEC network.
Yes.
Marty and McGee, what network is that on?
SEC.
SEC network. So why would you, even though he's a bigger name, maybe than Harry Lyles Jr., take a guy who hosts a show on the SEC network and put him on the ACC? That, to me, is where, like, his little theory about that.
Right.
And look, maybe maybe he's right about them knowing, but it still wouldn't have meant that Marty Smith was going to be in Tallahassee and not Tuscaloosa.
No, I mean, to me, that's kind of looking at a situation and saying Marty Smith is higher on the totem pole than Lyles is. And that's just really not fair, honestly, because they're both doing the exact same job. They're out covering the assignment they were given. It's only natural to put Marty Smith with the SEC teams because of his connection there. I mean, in general, like before he even got into football, he was doing like NASCAR and stuff. He's perfect in the SEC.
Yes.
Just throw him over. I mean, I know North Carolina and everything. You can make a case there for racing and stuff. But at the same time, like, he's the perfect fit. He's the SEC guy. That makes sense. I just think that's kind of a shot. Like, that's grasping at straws. Everybody knew you were getting left out. ESPN set this up. But don't throw a shot at a reporter because he's the wrong one, quote unquote, wrong guy covering you.
Yeah. I mean, nothing.
That's stupid.
No. They got Elvis.
Yeah.
We got Jerry Lee Lewis. Like, I mean, that's not fair.
No,
like,
not at all.
Yeah, no. It's not fair at all.
If I'm Harry Lyles, I'm like, I don't want to cover Florida State. Screw y'all. I'm out.
I'd be mad. He responded very funny. He put up I think you should leave meme. And like, what did I do? Like, what? How did I get involved in this?
Oh, my God.
And it is humbling, even though you know things, to find out how people consider you in your importance hierarchy of covering things. Like, again, reporters are not supposed to be the story at all.
No.
So if you're good, and Harry Lyles is, like, you wouldn't, like, you don't think of it that way, but you know who the big shots are.
Yeah.
And look, Marty Smith's been there a long time. He's been
been
doing this stuff for a long time. So yes, they're going to send Marty Smith to Tuscaloosa. That's the bottom line. And part of it could be like, well, Marty Smith has a great relationship professionally with Nick Saban and all, like, he knows this. He's better off there.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to get into why they really probably knew, it's because Greg Sankey's PR tour that was, they didn't, because they're not, and of course nobody does this anymore, but it used to be if you had, like, when you're covering political things, if you're a news network and you had an interview with a Republican candidate for governor, you would have one with a Democratic candidate for governor, because that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that ESPN owed this to the ACC or to Jim Phillips, but I do think that there could have been some, like Greg Sankey went out there and then nobody, like, did anybody call Jim Phillips and be like, hey, do you want to come on? Because Greg Sankey is out here at every championship game, at halftime and pregame, like wherever he is, just throwing darts at your league. And like when he said one of these things is not like the other, I think Jim Phillips assumed he was like, oh, he's talking about the Big 12. No, he's not.
Well, the Big 12, but the Big 12 had nobody in the mid. Well, they had Texas, but they were getting
Here's the thing. The thing about that, which would have been foolish to think, is that he's not going to throw those darts at the Big 12, because the team from the Big 12, the Big 12 champions, was his new team.
It's his new team, exactly.
Yes, he was at that game.
Well, I don't necessarily, look, I understand ESPN owns the rights to both of those conferences, and they should be doing more, in my opinion, to help out the ACC. Why they're not, I don't know. Maybe there just isn't the interest there, ratings, whatever, outside of Florida State and Clemson. Apparently that's what this is all coming down to. But to me, I don't think nobody at ESPN, it's not their responsibility to call Jim Phillips in that situation. It's somebody around Jim Phillips. If he doesn't have the eyes on it, he needs to have somebody like in his little collective circle that is paying attention to things like that and can quickly reach out. That was on him, 100%. He should have taken measures into his own hands, called ESPN and set things up and set the record straight. That's not on ESPN. That's not their responsibility whatsoever. But I will never understand the difference in how they do promote both conferences. That's just boggling to me, because if you're making money, if you have a vested interest in something, you should be able to promote it and get the most out of that you possibly can. And they're just being selective with it for whatever reason. And unfortunately, I think that tying into the injury and everything ultimately derailed Florida State, screwed them, and it's why we're in this. And hopefully we won't ever see this again. Hopefully this new playoff and wherever college football is going will prevent that from ever happening, because there's no way anybody in their right mind can look at the situation, how everything unfolded, and say that was the correct thing that happened. You can't leave an undefeated team out just because their quarterback got hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, I know we're still talking about this, but I just thought it was funny that Michael Alford, and he is going to kind of bring these things up throughout the time because he's trying to.
It adds to the case.
Yeah, it adds to his case. It adds to the, like, this is why. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's also going to be the defense against, well, I mean, now there's a 12-team playoff. You would have gotten in now. So the situation really already solved itself, which is the convenient way of saying, like, well, yeah, they messed up the last time, but they knew that they could do that because it was going to be fixed before.
But
so
that's like you saying yesterday about the laws or whatever. Somebody's weed was going to be legal one day, and you do it. You can't. You don't operate like that. Just because something's going to be.
You don't. So you've got to be. I mean, you just got to be better at certain things, but also you can't just assume that, oh, well, now that we're guaranteed this and this, that we're going to be fine, because when it comes down to those at-large teams, what's to say that they're like, well, you already got your one team, and definitely, you know, our 4-loss Tennessee team is better than your 2-loss Miami.
Right.
And they'd be like, what do you mean? Like, that's not the case at all. And they're like, well, I mean, look at.
It's going to happen. That's going to be the next thing that happens.
Yeah, that's going to be the next thing that happens. And so they don't want it. They don't want it to happen to them again. And so everybody in the leadership of college football has their own small part of doing things that have set off things that are worse. Now, this was going to happen with Florida State either way, but because of that, it has caused, I think, a lot of irrationality with it and a lot of doomsday scenarios, because you just watched a 13-0 team get left out of the playoff. And so to assume that it would never happen to anybody again, or because there's more and there wouldn't be a team that's more deserving left out for someone who has the right connections, is naive. Well, and while that's naive, I'll also stand on the other side and say that also doesn't mean that you need to like go on a full freak out like Florida State is kind of doing. Now, I get and I support them trying to get more money, but I don't.
It's weird, like, because what's stopping that same scenario from unfolding if you're so you have like two teams that are battling out. I guess that wouldn't work because somebody would technically be number 12. But if you had like an injury, say it's the last week of the regular season, and whoever's ranked number 12 gets an injury to their quarterback, are they magically going to drop and put the 13? So you could have the same scenario unfold. It would just be with less, I guess, high-end risk. But it's that I think the option is still there for somebody to be left out in that scenario. So, I mean, Florida State's kind of like fighting a battle that's uphill in a way. And I could be wrong on that, but.
All right, that segues nice into our next segment, which is Drew Weatherford, a former Florida State quarterback, is leading the charge for private equity in college athletics. And does he call it private? He calls it something different. He calls it's not private equity, it's private capital or something like that. And I'll get into that in a second. But it is a very interesting, and he says he's not involved with FSU's dalliance into it, but because that would be a conflict of interest with him on the board of trustees. But I also see a time where he's not on the board of trustees anymore, and then that happens.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to besmirch Drew Weatherford's name at all, but like he's leading this charge, and it would seem to be kind of silly that, you know, he's done this with Florida State being at the front of it, and then his company's not going to benefit.
Right, yeah.
You know, that's just how things work, especially with the kind of company that he's running and partner with Redbird Capital, which owns. Let me just tell you, so you know, going in, Redbird Capital added $4.7 billion to its arsenal for new endeavors. They bought the Wall Street Journal, and they also bought AC Milan in 2022. They have stakes in Formula One's Alpine and the Fenway Sports Group, owners of the Red Sox and English football club Liverpool. And so they've got their hands in a lot of things. And so it's interesting to see. It's interesting to hear him put forward what their plan is at College Athletic Solutions, but also it's nerve-wracking because you can have an altruistic mission, but when you start talking about this kind of money,
it's going to get skewed.
Things get nerve-wracking and seedy really quickly. So when we come back, we'll talk about private equity, diving into college athletics with Drew Weatherford, and, well, he's not going to be here. Although maybe one day I'll try to get him. Here, I'm going to tell you this before we start. Drew Weatherford was a good quarterback at FSU. I say good.
Yeah.
If he can help save the athletic department, it will make up for several losses.
That's fair.
I mean, like
he owes it.
That will, and he loves Florida State and he loves college athletics and all that. So if he does find a way to, bridge the gap and help FSU become big, me as a fan, I will forgive him for some of the egregious losses that I watched us suffer under his watch at quarterback.
I think that's only fair.
I mean, I can be bought. What I'm telling you is I can be bought.
Look at you.
I'd like to say that I'm pure as the driven snow, but there are things, I have weak spots.
Yes, it needs.
A soft underbelly that you can get at. And, Florida State football is one of the things that brings me the most joy in life. It's also one of the things that brings me the most pain. It's the yin and yang of being a sports fan. And so if there's a way for that to bring joy, and not only to football, but the entire athletic department. If basketball and baseball could win championships, particularly baseball, I'm not knocking basketball.
I knew this was going to baseball.
But particularly baseball, because that one's been close. Basketball's never been close. It's not something I can really wrap my head around that happening. So I won't be able to win until it happens. Which it may never. I don't know. So, I'm not worrying about that until it happens. Baseball's been very close very many times.
They're
a
really
lot.
Good this year.
And they're really good now, and they look like they could be good into the future. And so, if a trip to Omaha doesn't win in me saying, "Oh crap, what is my life? Why did I pick this place? Why did I fall in love with such a stupid thing that only hurts me?" If that can happen, then look, I'm willing to cut some corners, as long as those corners come from America or countries that are allied with America in a good way. You know what I'm saying? Like Finland or France, England. Fine with those. Saudi money scares me. A little makes me nervous.
A little nervous.
Don't want to do that. That would, especially on my whole big live golf stance,
that's where you would be.
That's where I would just be.
That's the one.
I'd find myself into the hypocrisy thing.
Yeah.
And sports makes you do that. It really does. But when we come back, we'll talk about private equity in college athletics and what that could mean. This is 365 Sports, the triple option.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back, Paul Catalina and Garrett Ross. Garrett, you had awards duty this morning. If you're wondering why Steven isn't here and we're not playing the Wednesday Wheel of Wednesday, he had school awards today.
Yes.
For his kids. So he has more kids than you, so he has more awards to go to. So was this daughter, son, who was this for?
This is for T-Buddy, man.
Okay.
So, I wasn't expecting. My plan was to get up this morning, fully dive in, and prepare for it to puck around and find out. My wife informs me, hey, you want to go do this? I got some homework I need to do. And me not want to be an ass, my initial thought was like, no, I really don't. I have my own stuff to do.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. It's not about T-Buddy, Parker, but it's about you having to sit through the other kids winning awards.
My God. Okay, let me tell you this. So for people who don't know, I come from a very, very small town, okay? I had 7 people in my graduating class. 7. So going to this, they put my son has Down syndrome. He's in the special education class. So they put them, he's in 5th grade. They did them with the 4th grade at Robinson. Mm-hmm. There are probably about 8 or 9 different teachers. So their whole 4th grade class plus my son's was like the entire kindergarten through 12th grade where I come from. So sitting there, I got about halfway through it, dude. I was going crazy because I'm not used to sit through stuff like that. And it was kind of good to prepare me for this, but next year I got to sit through my daughter's graduation.
Oh, yeah.
And with the R's, we're going to be there for a minute. So it was a good trial run to test my patience. But, man, being in the gym that early in the morning with like 100 and something 4th graders was not ideal.
No, yeah, I get it. It's that's a lot. That's a lot. I think maybe for next year you should change your name to like Garrett Aardvark.
Dude, I'm gonna have to do something. Like we need to go
like just
first.
Garrett like 5 A's. That way you can be like, all right, good deal.
Oh man, because I do not want to say it was cool, man. Like I was nervous how he would do like sound and everything. They threw his headphones on. Once he saw me sitting there, he got all excited. He got award for A honor roll and humanitarian or something like that. And I was like, I bet we can run with that.
Look, I buy it. I buy it for humanitarian especially because that's a sweet kid.
He is. He's awesome.
That's a sweet kid. If you guys didn't see it, if you were not Baylor fans, you probably wouldn't have watched it. But Parker was our surprise co-host on our last post-game show of the year because it was an absolute doing those was an absolute slog. Because people are mad if you're fans of Baylor and then
want us to make coaching decisions.
You're like, yeah, then please fire the coaches and be like, you know what, sure, buddy.
Yeah, we got that.
Well, you know what? Give me 5 minutes. I'll be right back. It's just right down the road. Maybe 10. I'll wait till he comes out of the locker room and be like, listen, I know I have no authority to do this, but you're out.
You're going.
You are out. You're out. You stink.
You're cool.
Yeah. You don't get any shoulder pads anymore. You're done. That's what people want you to do in the post-game show. And it's just not how it works. But Parker came and, I mean, I know that one day you're going to take him to Disney World or something like that off in the future. But if he reacted to this studio just the way with the pure joy and excitement and curiosity, like that way, like my God, like you're just gonna have to put out have security on either side for Disneyland because he'll go nuts.
Just run through everybody.
Yeah, he'll just go nuts. But he was having a big old time and just decided, like, you know what? I'm hosting the show.
I got this.
I'm up here.
A mic up beside you.
Yeah. He would just come. He would come up and he would talk to you, and then I would start laughing, and it was awesome. It was the best post-game show we ever did.
It was fun.
It was fun. And he was having a blast in here. So anyway, in our topic here, Drew Weatherford, former Florida State quarterback, who was good. He was fine. He was fine. He was fine. He was acceptable. It was better. Look, he probably would have been better with a better offensive coordinator. It wasn't all his fault. Jeff Bowden was the offensive coordinator at the time. It didn't work out. It was just not the way to end Bobby Bowden's tenure. It just wasn't. And
I hated how he went out. That's
I mean, like they fired Jeff and then reassigned him, and then brought in Jimbo, and that started the track back up. But it just
It didn't feel right.
and it was Bobby's fault. Like
was.
Bobby gave the thing to Jeff, and then they never
It was
never
like a Kurt
pushed.
Ferentz situation.
Yeah, well, it
But not as
was,
bad.
and the thing, it wasn't as bad as that.
Yeah.
Like they were still getting all these great players, but they would get in. Like I remember they get in the NFL, and they would be like 4th round picks, and be like, oh man, this guy is really good. Yeah, he was a 5-star recruit.
Yeah.
That was in a bad offense.
Just
And all of a
did
sudden,
not
you think
develop.
he's great. So, but I digress. It just. Sometimes you live, you learn with that. But college, Ross Dellinger, friend of the show, who is maybe becoming like the
Dude, he's blowing
top
up, man.
dude. And we have there's a lot to me, it's like Thamel, McMurphy, Ross, as far as the knowing, the inner workings, Dodd, those guys
they're on it.
are just on it right now. And they're doing really, really, really well. But private equity in college athletics. Drew Weatherford has been meeting over the last year with up to 50 schools, clandestine meetings with schools talking about private equity. And with revenue sharing coming, this is something that most of them are interested in. He said they've not encountered a school that says, no, that's not something that we would want to do. They all want it. It's got to be under certain conditions to fit into the, higher learning model in the college athletics model. But basically, he said that you can take the money that they give you, be between $50 and $200 million. So I would say $50 million would be reserved for, let's just say
It'd be a smaller or a
smaller.
It's gonna be like Kansas.
Kansas may want more, but we're going to invest more in this and that and the other thing. And you can do whatever you want with the money as long as it's under athletic department things. So if that's paying coaches, if that's to offset the revenue sharing, if whatever it is, that's you can do that with it. And then they have percentage until they pay back their, original investment over time where, it starts at 22% and then it goes down to as low as 2% over time. So it sounds like a really good deal for the colleges. I mean, on the surface, getting $200 million a year, which, look, I'll tell you right now, if they're going to do this, the thing about it is you say, okay, well, if this is Florida State or Clemson, could this keep them in the ACC? No. And here's why. Because if they say Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina all go and yes, we want $200 million of this equity capital, you don't think that Ohio State's not going to go, you know what? We'd also like $200 million. So then, and that's a good investment for the capital partners because it's Ohio State, right? So then you're still behind. So you're not closing your gap. But if they do get out, so that's something, but it can also help bridge the gaps that are growing. So while I can see that it's a good idea, and Drew Weatherford said, look, we're going to be completely hands off, as long as you meet the terms and all of this, we're trying to help college athletics. Okay, that's his private equity.
Right.
Well, what happens when someone else comes in?
Because you're going to open the door.
You're opening the door. And that's what I think is you can have very altruistic and this is the thing. We're going to make money. They're going to have money that they need. College athletics is going to be able to grow, which one of the things I would like to see that private equity spin on is women's sports, non-revenue sports to help popularize them and get them out into the open more. We've got a college baseball game on right now. College baseball is one of the most fun things to watch for your baseball.
It's awesome, yeah.
It's awesome. It's very fun, but it's only on TV easily. Now it's all you can watch as much as you want now, but as far as promoted and all that stuff, it's just not. There's not, to be fair, there's only 24 hours in a day, but it doesn't get the coverage because by the time their season really gets going, basketball is at its, ending the season and all that. So it's tougher to find that real estate. But college hockey needs to be more popular to me. They have the Frozen Four is one of the great events in college sports. Great events. Well, there's also probably great games that lead up to that great event. Not as great as the Frozen Four, but even still, that's what college athletics needs to do to make itself more relevant is try to make its stuff more popular. And I know that you only have so much money and so much time in the day and so many things, but you've got to you've got to double down on football. You have to be able to do that, but you have to be able to take some of that football money and put it back into the rest of your athletic department in a fashion that benefits everybody.
Well, kind of like what I'm confused about on the amounts from $50 million to $200 million. Like you were using the example right there, well, I'll call them the big three or whatever in the ACC, Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina, saying they want the $200,000. Well, if Florida State, Clemson, and North Carolina are asking for $200,000, why would everybody? To me, like everybody in the ACC would want that, because if you don't take that, then you're playing from behind the eight ball, just like they were. Why? The same reason they're wanting out. So to me, like if you want to do this, just give everybody the same amount to work with. That way you don't have anybody who can make an excuse, say, well, we only elected to take this certain amount. They have more money they're working with. That's why they're better, so-and-so. It just eliminates excuses. And then to me, like, at the end of the day, who is holding these schools and stuff accountable for making sure they pay this back in full? And is there like a timeline?
Yeah, I mean, like, look, that's how it is with capital or equity. I mean, all the terms would have to be met. I mean, if you don't pay it back, you're going to be in breach, and then you've got bigger problems. Yeah. But this would allow, and I think most schools would be able to do this. Like, the thing is, nobody's going to enter into this. Mm-hmm. I say nobody. Most of the people are not going to enter into a private capital, private equity arrangement that is a university, which is controlled by a lot of different things. For example, you could be controlled by state government. You can be controlled like all these other things. So, yeah, I mean, there are schools that would, and look, the party line for most people is going to be like, well, we'd rather not do that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, right now with college football as popular as it's ever been, with women's college basketball as popular as ever been, with men's college basketball about as popular as it's ever been. With that going on and new investment opportunities and sports being kind of a thing that big companies think they can make money on, why would Redbird Capital buy, part of the Red Sox and Liverpool and AC Milan and Formula One if they weren't going to turn a profit on it?
Yeah, no, they're definitely going to turn a profit.
So if you think you can turn a profit on Clemson, like I'd maybe invest in Clemson.
Does this correlate with the NCAA still being in place, or is this if?
I think it doesn't matter.
So just in general, it doesn't matter.
It's just money that they can take on. And I don't know if you can – the NCAA can't stop anything anyway, but like outside of governance coming in and saying like, no, it's not fair to get private equity. Well, most schools would, like, according to Drew Weatherford, and I believe him, most schools aren't going to say no.
Well, they're going to have to. If this settlement comes out and you're having to pay back, that's not really the only way you can stay afloat, or else you would gut your athletic department if you try to pay it back. The settlement, they're going to do threaten harsh things like we'll have to cut sports, we have to do this to pay back some of this, but it's spread out over some time. It's a lot of money. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a ton of money, and it's a lot of money per school. But I would think that, like, it's hard for me to believe that you're going to, have unlimited coaching staffs and be able to bring in as many people as you want, and then turn around and say, like, well, we don't have the money to pay this back. Like, you do, for the most part. And that's not true, but I think for the majority of them, the way the settlement works out is palatable enough. Right.
Over the few years they have to pay it out. Also, with the NCAA chipping in 40% of it, I think that really does make it more palatable. But this also allows you to kind of erase some of that math, which is really hard for the athletic departments to do because you don't really know how things are going to go year to year. Mm-hmm. And so that's why, like, planning out a college budget is so hard, because you can't just say, well, we're going to need this for this year. Right. Because, the 12-team playoff is going to be an interesting thing because you're going to have to budget. Even if you're not good, you're going to have to budget as if you could wind up in the 12-team playoff.
You have to.
But you don't know. And then, like, this money is going to be built it could be built into the budget for 30 years for you to play all the 12-team playoff games you could possibly play. And then you're never going to spend that money, so it's going to be rolled over in this. But they have to plan for those things. You have to plan like you're going to go. And granted, the NCAA and the playoff picks up the travel costs on those things, but you still have to plan for other things within that.
Well, I mean,
there are costs that they don't cover.
Like Penn State, right? Like they're having to upgrade their stadium.
Yeah, they're spending
ahead.
$700 million. So again, Penn State, I haven't heard a peep out of the Big Ten about like, oh no, we're gonna have to. Yeah, they're not.
Worried.
They
not
have
worried
no
at all.
place to complain.
No,
they have no place to complain.
How would this work with the? And I doubt that this would be a program who even acknowledge the idea of taking private equity, but like with SMU. With how they have bought their way into the ACC and they're not taking revenue, how would that impact them? Or would you not want to take the private equity if you're already at a financial setback compared to the everybody else that you just went into a league with?
Yeah, I don't know. Like there's all these huge unknowns.
Yeah,
and again. I think private equity is coming, and we have to reconcile that's coming. I don't think you can keep it out.
At this point, no.
I don't think you can keep it out.
When you start, to me, it's like anytime something starts being talked about, like it's telling you, like it's foreshadowing what's coming.
Well, when you have ADs and presidents going, well, we got to have the money, we got to have the capital, we don't know where it's going to come from, and then you've got somebody's like,
and they're not willing to take pay cuts.
Hey, I've got money. You want some money? Mm-hmm. How about we make each other money?
Yeah.
This is the plan. Now, if you have an altruistic vision like Drew Weatherford does for college athletics, then okay, that's probably the one you want to enter into. But the thing is that it's an open marketplace then, and you don't know who's going to, Redbird's not going to invest in Indiana. We just don't really feel, and that's probably a bad example. Redbird's not going to invest in Wake Forest. We just don't see the long-term growth. And then Wake Forest is like, man, we need to find somebody. And then a Bluebird over here, like, hey, well, Bluebird, we'll do that one. So Bluebird, who I'm saying is the opposite of Redbird, and I'm not saying that Redbird is this altruistic, $10 billion valuation company. Like, we know what they are.
Right, yeah.
But Bluebird doesn't have the goal of, let's save college athletics, let's make it mutually beneficial. They just say, like, well, you need money. We can make money off of you, so here's the money. That's where it gets easy. And then you start having people
and then you're Red Lobster.
Kind of telling you what to do. By the way, okay, you brought that up, and we're going to close this out. You brought that up.
I did.
Red Lobster has been undone because a fish company that's from Singapore, I believe, bought up the majority of their shares. And in order to offload their excess of shrimp, they made endless shrimp a permanent menu item as opposed to a thing that they did for like a month. Mm-hmm. Endless shrimp has bankrupted. Here's how much America is full of fat asses. And I can say this. I can say that word. I can say it. It's about my people. Here's how America is full of fat asses. Endless shrimp. Oh, we're going to Red Lobster once a week now, as opposed to like, oh, well, let's go there for the endless shrimp, and then maybe we're not going to go there once or twice a year. Now you have endless shrimp, or you have the opportunity to order it all the time. Mm-hmm. Well, it put them into bankruptcy because people really like shrimp.
It's good.
Yeah. Even excess shrimp. I mean, like when I heard that, I'm like, we getting of this endless shrimp, how much of it is the stuff that we really like, or how much is just a shrimp?
I think a lot of it was just a shrimp. Mm-hmm. And I'm waiting for in about 20 years, they tell us all the seafood we've eaten has been poisoned.
Yeah. Yeah. Alan says, Paul's so mean today. I'm mean every day, Alan. No, but like to be undone, foisted on your own petard by shrimp is
fascinating.
I'm sad for Red Lobster as an American institution. And they're going to go the way of Steak and Ale, which was really good.
Ryan's
and
Steakhouse,
Bennigan's, that was really good. And Ryan's Steakhouse, which was there. I did like it when I was a kid, though.
I don't think I ever ate a Ryan's.
Yeah. You know what? That's an endless. Here's the reason I liked Ryan when I was a kid. we lived in Bossier City, Louisiana, and they had a Ryan's, and on the buffet they had popcorn shrimp. I love popcorn shrimp, especially as a 10-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I'm just going to load up on popcorn shrimp. Like, and the other thing about Ryan's to me was a lot better than Golden Corral, which is just nightmare fuel and bad. But the idea for a kid that you can get pizza and popcorn shrimp and mashed potatoes and French fries and ice cream.
Dude.
And fruit and, like, a hamburger. Like, what do you mean? Hold on. I don't have to pick one?
No.
I can combine? Now my parents are like, you can't get this and this. And I'd be like, Ryan says that I can.
They can.
You are infringing on my rights, mother. This is not. Ryan's has laws. And their laws are, there are no laws. So, but yeah. Bennigan's, Applebee's is, Applebee's is struggling. We lost our Applebee's in Waco. I'm not lamenting it that much.
I hate Applebee's.
Applebee's used to be really good. Like, it used to be, and then I'm gonna dovetail this nicely. Watch this.
Okay.
Watch this callback.
See how we set you up.
Private equity from other places changed the company at its core.
Yep.
It's the same thing I think has happened to Hooters as far as their food quality goes. The same thing hasn't quite happened to Outback yet, which I'm glad. But like a lot of the chain restaurants, when they get bigger, private equity swoops in. That's what you have to worry about. So private equity swoops in, and you're like, man, I really used to like the riblets. They were good. And then you're like, they taste different now. Yeah, because they're from, sickly pigs and cows. They're not the same as you're used to because they bought cheaper product. They're not doing that, and they're still charging you the same thing that they did before, and then with inflation even more, and you're getting not something that's not as good. So the chain goes down and down, and people go less and less, and then they endless shrimp themselves out of business. So be careful with private equity and where it comes from, because you could go the way of Red Lobster.
I literally thought that last night. That's why I brought that up.
Where somebody comes to you and goes, hey, listen, NC State, got a great idea for you. Endless shrimp.
Yep.
And whatever that endless shrimp is of athletics, and NC State goes, you know what? We love endless shrimp. That's a great idea. Nobody else is doing endless shrimp. And then at the end of a year, they're like, oh, we should have just kept it to where we were before.
Yep.
So that's what's scary to me about that. Alan's mad because Olive Garden made them tip on pickups during the pandemic. Well, yeah, man. The people subsist on tips. Don't get me into why we have tipping in this country, because we found a way to pay waiters and waitresses under minimum wage and then say we're making it up with tips because of something that happened during the Great Depression. Like, let's not get into that. Man. Yes, of course you had to tip during the pandemic. Somebody put that together. Yes, you weren't getting waited on and your food filled up, but come on, man.
Because I've gone somewhere where, like, I've ordered online and they brought it out to my car, like, literally walk like 10 feet to bring it out to me, and then they look like I'm going to give them a tip. I'm like, dog, that's not how this works.
Yeah. I will get, like, I'll put a tip, like, it's not as big of a tip maybe as I would have, but I was always going to tip because I know how much they make. It's not like, again, I would say anybody who's mad about tipping, here's what you do. Walk into your local restaurant, chain restaurant of choice, and say, I would like to be a waiter. And then they'll say, you know what, we do need waiters. We've got, work shortages all over the place. Absolutely, we'll train to be a waiter. And then wait till like a Wednesday night during a low peak time, and you made $25 in tips, and you served like 10 tables, and you're just not making that much money. Nobody's got a lot of tip share if they pool tips or whatever. And then you look and like, oh, I make $2.35 an hour. Then you're going to be like, oh, this is why they get so mad about tipping. Because of some bull crap that happened during the Depression, man. The Depression. These things drive me insane. Why we do things in this country. Like, oh, why do we have to tip? Oh, well, this is a way that we've scammed people into doing things. So, all right, when we come back, just a quick look at Bill Connolly's post-spring college football S&P Plus rankings and who he thinks has the best chance of coming away better off after the spring. And he does by conference, by by team and all of that. So we'll go through that really quickly when we come back. This is the triple option.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome back. Paul Catalina and Garrett Ross. G Money, G Ross the boss. Running things. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll just get into the conference strength, Garrett, since we're right up against the end of the show. So might break this up over a couple shows and do it. But
yeah, it'd be fun.
Bill Connolly's average S&P Plus rating by conference. The 9th ranked conference is the MAC. They're at minus 12.8. Mm-hmm. So they don't have a lot of, great shot here. Then Conference USA at minus 11.4. The AAC at minus 9.1. The Mountain West at minus 8.4. The Sun Belt at minus 7.1. And then the Power Four are all in the positive. The ACC at a 5.0, Big 12 at 5.6, the Big 10 at 9.9, and in the SEC at 16.1. Mm-hmm. Because they are just loaded top to bottom with teams, have returning starters. And so here's how he calculates this. It's returning production, recent recruiting, and recent history.
Okay.
And sliver of information for the previous 4 seasons. So when he says recent history, it really is recent history. It's not like, oh man, Georgia Tech was great in 1990.
Those Minnesota teams.
Yeah. Like, don't forget about 1938. One of my biggest pet peeves when you're like, look, they haven't won a national championship. You're like, well, before World War II they did.
Totally different game.
Pre-Pearl Harbor, they were dominant. When radio games sounded like, oh, there's Jackson. He's got the ball. He pitches out to the right.
You do a whole thing like that. That would be great. It's a whole.
He's to the 40. He's to the 30. He's to the 20. He's to the 10. And that's a touchdown for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Oh, they're going nuts here in Minneapolis. Oh, boy. Jolly Roger, that was quite good. What a crackerjack touchdown by the Gophers.
Little Brett Musburger going on.
Yeah. They lead 6-3 in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left. So, yeah, football's different.
A little different.
Than then. Yeah. Now we'll pause for a sponsor, Healthy Cigarettes. Doctor recommended. Smoke them deep and smoke them long. Healthy Cigarettes, you'll live longer. But this is the recent history S&P. So his SEC was the biggest. Mm-hmm. And that's because in the rankings, Georgia's number 1, Texas number 4, Bama number 5, Ole Miss number 8, LSU number 9, Missouri number 11, A&M number 13, Oklahoma number 15, Tennessee number 16. Hold on, I've got to scroll a little bit. Kentucky number 25. So the good news is that there's a slight gap.
Yeah.
And then Auburn's 31st.
It's about right for them.
Yeah. Florida's 33rd, which good for them.
That might be a little high.
A little high. Things are going to be stressful in Gainesville this year.
So
Bottom
bad.
line.
I just hope Georgia puts Rashad out there for at least one series and just like curb stomps them. I really do. I really do.
It's really, I don't know if I believe in reincarnation or I would ever believe in reincarnation, but the best evidence I've seen so far is clearly Billy Napier did something to somebody in a previous life.
He did.
Like what would explain all this bad things happening to him at once? Outside of, like, you know, his in a previous life, he was like Ivan the Terrible. You know, like, I can't, like, that schedule is punishment for, like,
It's ridiculous.
Ivan, like, cosmic punishment for Ivan the Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that might be it. I feel bad for Billy Napier's, you know, everlasting soul when he gets up and fight. I was Ivan the Terrible? Oh, that's not fair. No. I just want to coach football, man. Man, that's not fair. But if anybody knows how reincarnation is supposed to work, I don't think that's it. But I don't know.
You're close.
Not a religion I follow, so I don't know. But yeah, they have so many of the teams in the top 30 that no wonder it's so high.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, the crazy thing looking at these SP rankings compared to like the other ones you see is they're really not much different in your top 10. But the way that this is loaded up with the SEC is absolutely ridiculous, honestly. Yeah.
By the way, would you like to guess who the highest ranked Big 12 team is?
Oh, probably either Kansas State or Utah.
Kansas State and Utah are 17 and 18. Miami 19, Oklahoma State 20th. Then Arizona is 24th.
Yeah,
so
I think, I can see that. I just feel like Iowa State should
30th.
Dude, I think Iowa State, they should be up higher than that. Where was Florida, 33?
Florida's 33.
Iowa State's significantly better than Florida. Like, in my opinion, there's no way they should be that close.
Yeah. Kansas is 37.
I kind of get that because
you're relying a lot on
the health.
Jalen Daniels, and they did lose some offensive production.
I'm more worried about the loss of Jason Bean.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, he saved them last year.
Yes, he did. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, that trying to find the lowest ranked P4 team that he has. Baylor 61st, Georgia Tech 63rd, Syracuse 64, Illinois is at 66, BYU's at 67. All right, hold on. Boston College, Houston at 79. Man, there are some.
Vanderbilt, 97.
Vanderbilt's at 97. That looks to be it. Vanderbilt at 97.
Oh, Vandy.
Yeah, they're the lowest ranked P4 team. So, but yeah, I was surprised. I mean, rejoice, G5. There are lots of you amongst the top 100.
Are you kind of surprised to see? I guess it makes sense. It's just weird seeing how far the American, because for me, the American was like the standard for the group of five, and now with Houston and UCF and everybody Cincy taking the exits, it's crazy to see how they've been jumped by both the Mountain West and the Sun Belt. Now the Fun Belt's kind of like the premier G5 team league.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm sad, but I'm happy. Sad that a triple option has come to an end, but happy because we've got a very interesting show for you today. We have Mitt Winter, who's an attorney at law, who has followed the NCAA House versus NCAA case really well, and he will walk us through the settlement and all the problems that apply therein, including that maybe a judge isn't going to accept this thing. The Big 12 and the ACC have already said yes to it, and why wouldn't they? It's a great deal for them. And we also have Colby Newton, who's written a book on the SEC and kind of how they built themselves into this. And then John Talty of CBS Sports 24/7 will join us, talk about his book about Jim Harbaugh, plus some other things going on in college sports. But a lot of interesting guests today, in addition to a lot of discussion that we have to do on a lot of different things. Plus my top 5. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you in an hour, everybody.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber, we deliver custom private